good evening and welcome to this edition of A Walk Down Memory Lane. I'm your host, Earl Basin, and joining me as co-host, Danish Brown. And we have a trio of Newsomes alongside us this evening in Sam the Cat Newsome. We have John Newsome Sr. and John Newsome Jr. First of all, gentlemen, thank you very much. I believe somebody's got their, I'll be able to tell in a second. Yeah, it's okay. I'll be able to unmute you when time comes. But thank you very much for joining us this evening. First of all, I got to get this out of the way because everybody knows everybody by a nickname. So Sam, can you give us how you got the name the Cat?
There's Sam, which is a nickname. It's not my Christian name. And the cat was Sam. I got in kindergarten in school. Some of my friends thought I looked like this cartoon rat, so that takes care of that. And the cat part came because of a game that we played in Guatemala in 1967. So I got it from that game.
Oh, okay. Good stuff. Dennis, you want to jump in?
Yeah, good night, fellas. Nice to have you on the show. It's a pleasure to have three legends in your own right. Everybody created their own legacy. And the thing when I was dealing with the research, it every one of you became professional footballers, which is, really, really amazing, out of one family. And like I said, nice to have you guys on board. The first question to everybody is, when did you first get into football, and where was it? Like, was it in your neighborhood? Was it at a club or whatever? So when did you first get into football?
We'll start with Sam.
Yeah, because Well, we first got into football. My daddy was a football player. In fact, he was a goalkeeper as well for what was then the Pesci Bombardiers that became the Warwick Bombardiers. So we had, I guess we were born into it. And we as brothers, all four of us, the one thing that we could do is kick a football around. So we after chores and school and stuff, we play with each other for, as often as we can, like every day probably. And I think that was the start for me, and then Johnny and brother Shirley and brother Eugene. So that's the start.
Okay. Johnny? Oh, sorry. Gotta bring you back. Go ahead.
Well, my story is not unlike Sam's stuff. That's we've been playing football all our lives. Our father played football, and we used to go down to Orders School Field, sometimes by ourselves, and other times when the ball was bouncing in on that field, you could hear the ball bounce in the surrounding neighborhoods. So we get the whole neighborhood coming out playing football. It was something that was, I would say, natural to us. And it was something we look forward to. Of course, like Sam said, we had to do our chores, and we had to do everything that was necessary in order to allow us to go down to the field in the first place and play football. And then once we were together, we made up little games. And we played those games. And everyone had a chance to play goalkeeper. So that's part of the family dynasty.
Johnny?
I'm muted. Okay.
Yeah.
I was waiting for the unmute. No, for me,
yes.
It was going with my father to the Spinning Wheel Raiders games, and so at that time, it was the commercial team playing, and a lot of my friends that I have today were kids of the other players. So, for instance, Rob Gumbo Beans, Jr. is a tight friend of mine, but that came because my daddy played with his father. The Spinning Wheel, we used to go in the field halftime, kick around the can, try to get up in the clubhouse. They'd kick us back out of the clubhouse. and then we'd be kicking, as much as we could around there. But again, you see the family lineage with football. So kind of just fell into that space. I did want to ask how my uncle became a goalkeeper. I figured one of them just told him that he had to play in goal. He couldn't touch the ball with his feet.
And, there is a story to that, John Barry. We'll get to that.
You might as well get to it. You might as well, the questions asked.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, it's a good story because I didn't start out as a goalkeeper. I used to play, I guess, all positions left because I was solidly left-footed, centre half, left back, left wing, left midfield. That was still in primary school. And the story is there's a fellow named Derek Hurl, I think you know from rugby.
Yes.
And we were in the same class in school, and he was the goalkeeper. And then he had a horrible game one day, and I would tell you all the details in that. But anyway, I had to go and go. So he knows all that, and so that's how I started. And then I was probably like I always played when I was a junior. I played when I went to high school. I was a fellow named Dr. Jennings, who was a better goalkeeper for me in one team, so I had to play left back on that team to get a game. But it was also because of my age, I was able to play on the junior team. Well, you know, you have the A, B, and C division levels of school in those days anyway. So I was able to play goalkeeper in the junior team. So I was playing two positions for two school teams. And I was also playing for Bombardiers, juniors. And I played centre half of that. And in fact, I think the only reason I stayed in goal because I wanted to stay in goal, and everybody else thought I played other positions better. But anyway, so I got my way in the end.
Yeah, Dennis?
Okay, so another question for all of you. So as you are coming through, who were some major influences on you as young football players?
We're working reverse. We'll go with John Barry.
Yeah, well, for me, it was Dennis Brown.
And where was it? Which club?
So my club was always Wolves. Everybody wanted me to go PAC, but you know, it started out with Vince Marners really being, you know, that leader for me. You know, coaching me through the many minor years. But if I'm honest, the person that really kind of sparked my journey was actually you, Brown, because when you first came in, I was a center back, you know, full out. And then we had, you know, other center backs that played, Lenaro Simmons, etc. And you actually pushed me forward in that first season I played with you up top, which kind of started my journey as a striker when that started. So, you know, I give a lot of credit to you whenever I talk to people as far as the influence, not just on the football side of it, but also the mental and the physical side of it. Because I used to hate when you had the medicine balls over there. I used to hate people after that deal. But again, it told me a lot. It told me a lot about myself in that space, especially as a 15, 16-year-old.
And just to follow up before the other guys, when I got to Wolves that season, that was my first season at Wolves, and they told me about this 15-year-old, and when I saw him, I said, wow. So we wrote to the BFA right away to see if you know they'll allow him to play in this, and we're in the second division at that time, so we called the BFA and they allowed him to play. You know, they said physically he'll be able to handle it, and yeah, the rest is history because we actually that year we got to the FA Cup final.
Yeah,
A very young team, like 16, 17-year-olds plus Dasher Douglas. Dasher was playing when he was 40 something, yeah. And you know, looking back, you know, we are down 2-0 against Boulevard. We came back 2-2, and right at the end we could have won it, like, you know what I mean? But you know, those are some beautiful years for me to see, like guys like John Barry, Joey, and VJ, and Jared, and you know, there was so much talent at Wolves at that time, you know, and I'll talk about that a little later on too. But those are some good years for me, man.
Yeah.
Very good years.
Yeah.
So Johnny, who was a great influence on you?
Well, I guess it's a combination of a few. I mean, okay, I grew up under the Bombardiers, and I mean, you know, the Paget Bombardiers until that folded up. So, you know, there's the, like, you know, the Hunts and you know, the guys that used to actually try to work out with on bottom field. And I remember one time, because I must have been about 12 or 11. I'm playing football, and one of the first team Bombardier guys like kicked me in my head because I was so short, just doing a side volley and kicked me in my head. So I'm laying on the ground, and I guess I was crying. I'm not going to admit I was crying, but I guess I was crying. And the guy looks at me. He says, "What is this guy doing if you're in the first place? Get him off the field."
Oh, wow.
No sympathy or anything. But I used to also read a lot because in those days, we had the football magazines.
Yeah.
So I used to read a heck of a lot. And in those early days, I was really a forward. Whether it was a left wing or center forward, I was a forward. And so I looked at players like Charlie Cook, George Best, and those guys, and see just how they were doing certain things. Also, as far as heading ability, people like Ron Davis, Martin Chivers, and these guys. And so I used to just watch and then sometimes even practice by myself to emulate the techniques and styles that these guys are showing on television. In Bermuda, of course, you have people like Barbara Daniels, who's a fantastic player. After I transferred to PHC, of course, because they had Nips Lewis, and I got friendly with the Tanja Russell and PHC was a family at that time, and I was very, very young. But really, I did, like I say, extreme amount of reading and tried to emulate those players I saw on television and in the magazines as well.
All right. Sam?
Okay, let me have a sidetrack for that. I have to tell a story being John Barry's here. Do you indulge me in this? Or?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I mentioned the Derek Hurdle story, so anyway, a long time ago, I was asked to give a talk to students at St. George's SEC by Dale Butler when he was there. So anyway, Dale takes me and he gives me this big spew about, and all the kids, all I get is blank faces they're looking at. And then one guy put his hand up and he said, "Excuse me, do you know John Barry?" I said, "Yes, my nephew." And they said, "Okay, he's all right. We can listen to him now." True story.
He got you here.
True story. So I had to get that in. Anyway, I don't get to tell these very often. But anyway, good thing about playing for Bombardiers, we had two good goalkeepers. It was Barkley Adams, who played for at least BFA Selects, and Lloyd Battersby, he also had played for BFA Selects. So I had good role models in the neighborhoods. It's like real neighborhood kids. And then I had a rivalry with Earlston Jennings since we were 12 years old. And I think if you see Earlston now, if you ask him who was the best out of either one of us, he'll tell you that it's him. So he was the person that I competed with the most. But the star person that I looked up to the most probably was Dennis Wainwright, because he was classy. He was all the things I wasn't. Lots of flair, and I still don't have flair. But and I think I was one of the incentives to try, and because Dennis was going on. I think Dennis must be 100 because he said he played against my daddy as well. My daddy hadn't played since 1951 or 2, something like that. Dennis is still going. So it became my, so I took on the challenge of trying to, be as good as Dennis. And when I was able to take his place in the Bermuda team, it's a big achievement for me. So I was actually very proud of that. He made me work for it, though. Yeah. And the other thing, the other story is that, when you play games, you're young, you come off the field, you go to the club, and everybody tells you how good you are, and you're bigger this and the big, you get big sweat at it. Then I had to go home. I used to be afraid to go home. My daddy waited for me in the house and said, "Well, let me tell you, you did that wrong. You did that wrong." It was like, I went from being 7 feet tall to about 6 inches. I would say that those are the the big influences in my life, and this is locally, because at that point it was all locally, and there were other people that probably influenced a bit later on.
Sure. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about international debuts and how you guys fared. We'll be right back.
We're welcoming back the often featured Whole Food veterans Bragg Live Food Products, renowned for their live probiotic organic raw cider vinegar and savory seasonings. Paul Bragg is the man behind the products that has originated health food stores, restaurants, and spas, and promoted nutrition education through the media, helping lay the foundation for the enlightened way we make healthful choices when we shop for and prepare food. This month we're featuring Bragg Organic Raw and Unfiltered Apple Cider Vinegar and Organic Extra Virgin Olive Oil. Lindos, why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. Obviously, representing Bermuda, it's a big achievement. Sam, you just talked about, replacing Dennis. Do you remember the game, the opponents, and the outcome, and anything significant that stood out for you?
I can remember too many because we got hammered a few times. I guess the first game I was supposed to play was one of the Christmas. We always had Christmas tours, and we had a team here, Philadelphia Ukrainians, and it rained, so I didn't have to play that one. So that was the easier baptism. But and we also had all the English teams that used to come down. So that summer, I think that was Crystal Palace came down, and we got hammered. We lost like 8-1, I think it was, something like that. And that was in the training for the team for the first international to go to Iceland. Regardless to say, they took the two old guys. It was Dennis Wainwright, Vivian Civil, myself, and Clyde Burgess were the goalkeepers training for that. So I think after my performance, they thought we've got to take the old guys. They needed to be around a bit better. So, well, I had a good game. Apparently, I had a good game. So it's just that that was a different level than the first time I'd seen it. So
Sure.
that was. So that was the first game. I think the second game would have been to play against the team that came back from I think it's the BFU Select against the team that came back from Iceland. So we did that after they came back, and then it was then I did all the levels after that. That was the BFA Select. I did the under 21s, the BFU Select. They're so different. There wasn't a national team then. They were different sort of like BFA Selects, League Selects, and age group Selects. So I played in some of those. When Doc Foot wasn't playing, I was playing.
Right. Okay. All right. Johnny?
My international debut actually happened at the youth level. And that was I think it's the 68 or 69 youth tournament, whereas Bermuda won the tournament. We beat Haiti. It was 4-1 in the final. And myself and Dale Russell, we were the youngest in the group at 16 years old, and it was an under-18 tournament. That was my introduction. And that team had, household names, Clyde Best, Dirk Simmons, David Frost. We had Cal Rayner, and on and on and on and on. Some great players. And I remember one time I was out and someone saw the picture of the youth squad at that time. And he says, hey, there's no weak spots here. It's a strong side. My first international match was against Mexico, and I played left back in that particular match. And I had to mark this very, very short guy. And he ran me all over the field. All I was doing was running behind. It was like it was like a mile race, and I was always in second or third place. There was no third person.
Whoa.
So it's and the coach, I think it was Burnfish at the time. It might have been Burnfish at the time. He says, in his accent, he's making you look like a fool. it was a bad introduction to senior international football. And I believe my second game was a bit better. I played in Canada, played with Sam in Canada. And Sam has always been very, very vocal in goal. And there's one thing I appreciate about him versus a lot of the goalkeepers I see today. And I look at some of the goalkeepers in England and in the world. And one, they don't understand the game. And two, you know, they can't organize anything, you know, and you can't hear a word they're saying. But I remember one little small little thing was that we were tied 1-1. I believe George Brangman scored for us. We were tied 1-1, and getting very close to the end, and I just booted the ball outside the field. Just booted it. Sam says, "What are you doing?" We're trying to win this game. Hey, so those were my early introductions to international football. And,
all right, good stuff. John Barry?
Yeah, mine was actually a little bit, actually a lot easier than these guys was. My first international, we actually played British Virgin Islands. And so I was on the bench to start the game, but we got up to like a 4-5 lead first half. And Clyde Best was our coach at the time. And there was myself, Stevie Aswood, and Rohan Simmons just waiting to get on the pitch. So for me, it was easy. It wasn't any pressure on the game. We was able to come on and just get our feedback. I think all three of us actually taught the net as well. So I remember fully as far as myself and Stephen in particular, you know, having that conversation about, you know, who's going to track first and who's like, you know, being young, arrogant, etc. But you know, it was a lot of fun. I will say that. So it's something we still talk about today. But yeah, my introduction was a little bit easier than these guys. And I quickly got baptized as we played, you know, stronger teams. Yeah.
Dennis?
Yeah, to Sam, so I'm gonna just let Bermuda know how you almost knocked me the hell out in my first season playing against Hotels at Police Field. Like I said earlier, I was this bull-headed little 16-year-old going off for a corner, and it was like a 50-50. And you know, next thing I knew, I'm on the ground, and I can't say what I said to myself, but you know, Sam said, "Yeah, welcome to First Division, young man." Yeah. And you know, I never went into a 50-50 with Sam again. You know what I mean? But he wasn't the tallest, but he was tough. And you know, probably the best keeper I played against in Bermuda. So I was doing low. Is my memory serving me, Sam? Did you also play for North Village?
I played, yeah. Well, I played for Hotels, but I was going 30 then. You know, you guys didn't want us, the older guys around, so
then you came back, right? From
bunch of guys my age who could lick you guys. So I do remember.
Yeah. You licked me, all right.
Yeah. So
you did play for. So you left Warwick and went to North Village.
Went to North Village, yeah. So I was at North because Warwick. I guess the honesty wasn't good anywhere to where I wanted to be, and you know, I wanted to play for Bermuda and stuff. And the guys at North Village were basically most of them I went to school with, at high school with, and they had a good program. So that's the reason that I went there. So, and it was a good. North Village was always a good club, good family club, even then. Yeah. So I guess about 10 good years in North Village.
Yeah. And when you guys decided to each of you go pro, as Dennis had alluded earlier, what was those moments like? Signing that first contract. Sam, you can go.
Well, I guess I've got the extended story. I guess I think after I played, by the time I was 20, I played all the levels and against a lot of the English teams. So I thought I wanted to give it a try. So someone arranged a trial for me to go to England to play for Rotherham. I went on a 2-week trial and I trained every day, and I played, and nobody ever said anything to me. So after 2 weeks, I thought, well, I guess I'm going home now. I said, no, we can't use you, but you're good enough to make it, so we're going to fix you up another club. Now, that story is that from that, a month or two later, the manager, his name Jack Munster was the name of the guy. It was when the NASL opened up in the States, and he got a job going for Boston, and he said, well, I'm going to Boston, you want to come? I said, no, I'm ordered to play in the big leagues, I'm going to stay. So his replacement just basically told me to get lost. So that's I don't know. So anyway, I'll just finish off my England trip because I get exposed a lot. So I had a friend of mine that who played for Barnsley. His name was George Hempstead. And he says, look, we need a second goalkeeper here, and I've told the manager about you. And so I went and I played 4 games for him. I played 3 where I was like man of the match. And then they brought all the directors in to watch my 4th match. And let's just say I stunk. It's a nice word to say. Things didn't go well. Anyway, so I had to come back to Bermuda because of my timing was up, but I had to come and go back again. And I decided that going back to play at a lower level, it's like, it's the money wasn't that great down there, and the travel by bus everywhere. So I stayed here because then we went off to Bermuda. That's the Guatemala game came in. And anyway, there's lots of that. I can go on all day. So that's other things follow that. But so that was my introduction. And I had Bob Daniel said I needed a goalkeeper for my club in New Jersey. We can fly every weekend. So we did that for a while. And then a few years later, I ended up going off with the, which is another. I went to the NASL because we were on strike. I'm an electrician. We were on strike, and I had a baby, and I hadn't worked for 6 weeks. And they said, I was procrastinating. They said, well, as soon as you get up, we'll start paying you. I said, I'll be up tomorrow. So I went, and I mean, it was good times out of that. So more stories, but yeah. That's how I got to that far.
Yeah. Johnny?
Okay, well, my move into professional was evolution through the college scene, because they had drafts in college like they had in football and baseball, et cetera. Before that, actually, I did have trials as well with West Ham United. And I played about 4 or 5 games there. And well, as it worked out, I got injured in my second game, and that was ironically against Devonshire Colts. So I had a dislocated shoulder against Devonshire Colts, and after that, it was difficult with balance and all those type of things. So in the end, I was given from what's the coach, Ron Greenwood. He gave me a couple of dollars and said, well, thanks, you're a good player, but, we have the England captain here, so thank you very much, the England youth captain. Okay, so when I came back, spent about a year or so more in Bermuda, I then got an offer through Gordon Chumney, actually, because Gordon was looking for someone to take his spot at Philadelphia Textile and Science. And so he thought about me, and then he put my name forward, and I went to Philadelphia Textile sight unseen. And so the coach just took me on board and say so that I could handle the job up there. And then after that, really, I was thinking more of a lifelong project as far as my job was concerned, as opposed to going professional. I had a job lined up as an accountant. I graduated concentration in accounting and marketing. And I had a job lined up as an accountant in Bermuda. But then the call came, and it was a call I just couldn't resist, so I had to go. So I ended up going to San Diego to start off my professional career. And since then, I've played indoor and outdoor for various teams in the United States.
Okay. John Barry?
Yeah, I guess you all took a little round. For me, I went to college route as well, so finished college. But my last year, I left early. I left in December to go on trials, and so the trials were with Rangers in Scotland. And so I actually, myself and Stevie Ass were going out there. Stevie was going to Livingston. I was going to Rangers, so we both get out there to Scotland, and we're waiting around in the airport, and there's no one there to pick me up. And so, made a couple of calls, still trying to figure it out, nothing's happening. So the Livingston guy was like, look, you come with us, I don't mind giving you a trial as well. And so I went to Livingston, had about 3 weeks there where I was on trial. Absolutely miserable because the sun didn't come up for the whole month that we were there. Just outside of football was one of the worst experiences I had. But as I was there, the MLS then gave me a call and said, look, we want to sign you on a pre-contract before the draft starts. And basically we'll start paying you from now and you'll be signed to the MLS. So I did that, went back to the States, and at Columbus, in Columbus, we went to our mini camp in Mexico. And it was always going to be a challenge because we had Brian McBride, Dante Washington, Jeff Cunningham, Edson Bottle. So we had all, national team players on that team. And I actually pulled my hamstring in preseason. So I was out for about 4 or 5 weeks. They still kept me with the team for a bit. But 3 weeks in, John Hawks had actually come back out of retirement. And at that point, he was America's captain at that point. Mm-hmm. And so what ended up happening was they sent me to Atlanta for the year. So we'll have a look at, again, with the funds and et cetera next year. And then basically I went to Atlanta and then started my journey around, the States from there.
All right. Okay. We're going to take another commercial break when we come back. Dennis, you're up.
Okay.
We're spotlighting our old friends Woodstock Farms, who started up 50 years ago in the belief that we need more trustworthy natural food sources. Starting with one product, their line, mostly certified organic, is now more than 250 strong in 10 categories. This month we're featuring accoutrements of the barbecue, for us the pinnacle of home cuisine and one of the few forms of restorative recreation now within our reach. Try Woodstock Organic Sweet Relish, Tomato Ketchup, Baby Kosher Dill Pickles, Sauerkraut, and Hickory and Original Barbecue Sauce. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to ask each of you a question about your professional careers. So I'm going to ask Sam. So Sam, I hope you got a good memory. In the NASL, you played for Montreal, was it?
Montreal, Vancouver, and New York.
And New York Cosmos.
Yeah.
Okay, so your question is, what was it like to be playing with Pele? Did you also play at Beckenbauer as well?
No, Beckenbauer came.
He came later.
Came later, yeah.
Okay, so your question would be, what was it like to be playing with the great Pele? JB, your question would be, give me the difference between the college level and then once you got to play for Atlanta, because I think you were scoring a bit of goals in Atlanta. Give me the difference in levels. And Johnny, you also played with Dale Russell at the pro level?
No, I played against him in the pro level.
Okay, so your question would be, name some Bermudians you played against at the pro level and also at the collegiate level. So Sam, you'll be first.
So let's go to Sam, and you can ask him again, just so.
Okay.
Just so,
all right.
I got that part. That's he started at least. I got all the other.
Okay.
But with the because I played in my 4 years that I played with and against a lot of good and great players, the players that I used to watch on television. So it was nice to be on the same field with them. But just sticking with the Pele thing, that was a great year. Probably in fact, I probably didn't go back after that because it's a complicated story, but I would have had to go somewhere else. But to be there when he invaded the U.S. like the Beatles invaded the U.S. because when I just joined New York that year from Vancouver, and New York were only getting about 5,000 people in the stadium. So anyway, he signed. We were at signings at the I think the 21 Club in Manhattan, And we had to then hop on a bus after that, and you know, it was all. Anyway, it was more exciting. It was a big, you know, all the press was there and all that sort of stuff. We stood in the corner, and he held court. But we had to go to Philadelphia to play that night, so that was the beginning. So Philadelphia probably usually only had 5,000 or 6,000 people as well normally. 12,000 people showed up just for him to walk across the field. So that was the beginning of a year that the crowds became big. So we got to the point that we were playing league games, and we were also playing exhibition games, and we had sort of breakneck crowds everywhere. Everybody wanted to see the guy, and because he was the guy that, it was my hero. He was the player in the world that I always wanted to see. So to be on the same field and discover that he was actually a very nice person, and for many reasons, that it was a good way to finish.
Mm-hmm. Johnny?
Yeah, the Bermuda players I played with in the gangs, in college, of course, Dale Russell, Duval Miners, we were there. And we've played against some Bermuda players. There was Marshall at Princeton University. And we played against Howard University as well. I'm not sure exactly which players were there at the time, because, you know, Bermuda, there was a lot of Bermudians at Howard University. And they've always had a very, very strong side. Moving on to the pros, I played against Clyde Bess. He played for Portland at the time. And, you know, always very strong, but always very powerful, difficult to handle in the air. And then I played against Gary Darrell. Gary Darrell played for Washington. Can't remember the name, was Dips or whatever. But Gary Darrell played for Washington. Yeah. And this game that we played, Gary actually played center half. So I've never seen Gary play center half. I thought that might be a weak spot, but Gary played a very, very, very strong game against Washington. Again, played against Dale. Dale was playing for Houston. So, and Dale was actual like a center midfield, and played again, you know, as usually. Dale played very, very well. Let me see if anybody else. Bermudians. I think.
Was Pinks there when you was there?
Actually, Pinks and Gumbo played for Philadelphia. That was
Philadelphia, yes.
That's when I was still in college.
Oh, okay.
So Pinks and Gumbo playing in Philadelphia. And before that, I remember Marcus Douglas. He played professional in the States. He might have been one of the first Bermudians that was recruited up to one of the leagues up there. And you know, we have other players that went to Canada as well. You know, so we've had our fair share of Bermudians. You know, and if you were to do a book of the players that play professional, I think it will be a nice sizable book for the size of the island of Bermuda. You know, and I think that was did Bermuda very well.
John Barry?
Yeah. For my question, the transition to college was actually, pretty smooth for me. I was already a big guy. Actually, my nickname when I was in college was Burr. That's actually when I had her. So I came, working with the but afro, big oversized clothes on. Had my beard fully out, and so the first thing they said, "Oh, that's John Barry. You can call him Burr." And so, I had good size on me for college. So it actually translated well into my game. And one of the things that happened was when I first got there, the guy that was in my position, the senior, actually got injured in preseason, which gave me the go button to get the team. And from that point, I kind of just took it over and played it real well. But when I got to the professional level, I think I realized that although people are your teammates, they're not necessarily your friends in the sense of it's a competition. So we had a lot of things like goal bonuses, assist bonuses, stuff like that these guys needed to make money off of, compensations as opposed to the base check. And you started to see a lot of that come out. So I had to learn that it's a little bit more cutthroat, it's a little bit more ruthless. And I learned that in Atlanta. I learned a lot of lessons from that side of it. going to the professional ranks as opposed to being in college, but really all your teammates just want to be in, they just want to see you do good. A lot of guys on that are full-time students, but just walk onto the team. So, you know, it's less of that friction, I guess, so to speak, than it was when I went to the professional ranks.
Well, I want to ask what game, it could have been professional, college, it could have been local, what game stands out for you the most and for what reason? And John Barry, being that your mic's open, I'll start with you.
For me, it was the Trinidad game. We played against Trinidad in Trinidad. I got 2 goals in that game. But I know for a lot of people that I spoke to afterwards, that was a transition because we was going through a bad transition as far as international games for Bermuda. But that was one of those games where it sparked the whole country, really. And I remember coming back to the island, we packed the stadium for the second Trinidad game. That was the infamous free kick on the substitute game.
Substitution, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, we didn't end up going through, but I definitely know for me, that kind of sparked my interest in football again, because at that point I had been to Atlanta, been to Toronto. I was playing in Toronto that season, and came back for Bermuda, and then I think I was at one point leading goal scorer in CONCACAF for the World Cup qualifiers for a little bit. And so we was having fun with it. We was playing some good games. That Trinidad game, we had Kenny Thompson as the coach. We were well drilled because, you know, they had a lot of possession. But we sat back, we had a good block. And we was able to counter, you know, with Connor out there, Damon Mean was out there, Mishak was in the midfield, of course. So we had some good players that played some good roles in that group. And I know for us, that was kind of a spark moment of, hey, we guys could play with these top teams because Trinidad had just come from the World Cup.
Right. That early goal settled you guys down as well.
Quickly,
the crowd. And then the crowd got anxious, and so the players got anxious.
Yeah, and it actually worked for us, and it irritates me though because I should have actually scored a third one, which would have put it to bed. But
I didn't want to say that.
I tried to flick it, and it didn't quite turn out. So my confidence was up at that point. I should have just been pissed. Yeah. But that's one game that stands out for me. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay. Johnny?
Well, for me, I'll bring it back to Bermuda. And sorry, Sam.
I know this story. Don't tell it.
You know, being a son I have, you know, I had to take my opportunities to score goals, and you know, and I was very strong in free kicks and heading the ball. We played against North Village down St. George's FA Cup semi-final, and yes, my brother was in goal, and but it was a good game. You know, the score was 1-1, and then we had an opportunity for a corner kick, and so you know, when the ball came over, you know, I timed it properly, and I really got a good header in, and well, Sam, did it go through your legs or on your side of your
There's something like I remember.
It ran in the goal.
But PAC won 2-1, and we went through to the final. I'll lift you up, Sam. Hey, Dennis, he almost knocked me out too.
Oh, well, yeah, real stuff, big.
No family thing.
No mercy.
So that game is stuck in my mind.
Okay, all right. Sam?
Well, I have to start with, I knew that was going to come up. You would let me know. And just the brother things, whenever we played against each other, Johnny liked to score goals. My brother Gene, if he scored a goal, I'd go home and he'd be laughing at me. And then, of course, my brother Shirley played goalkeeper for Social Club, and whenever he played with me, he never let the goals in. I'm the number one. It's like so. So that was the competitiveness within the family. But I've got a few things actually, because I don't think this might be the last time I get to see all this stuff, so I'll let it out. But I guess from Bermuda, the game, I guess the Guatemala game where I got the nickname was probably the biggest standout game because it was such an important game, and I actually loved playing that team. That was the old guys who were, were all grit and they give everything they had. We may not always been the best players, but I mean that team played for each other, so I've always treasured that one. Then When I went to the States, first thing, I guess I was rookie. I have to tell another story. I have to say this name because it's almost like the Johnny one. So it was a guy named Randy Horton. Because my first home game, I played on the road in technical games. And then my first game at home, we played against the Cosmos, and Randy was playing for them. And the score was 2-1, and we were in there. I was having a good game, and getting to the end of the game, this big, you know, I guess as Tom says, I'll pray for. I say something nice about it. And I said, Randy, ease me up. Look, I'm trying to make a good impression here. Anyway, Randy scored the second goal, so we lost 2-1. So I had to get that one out. And yeah, he laughed at me too. So it seems to be a continue. And then I set the record for most saves in a game in the NASL. I don't think that was ever broken. I was 22 saves without conceding a goal. That was in 1973. I was quite proud of that. There was a couple of guys on the other team. There was a guy named Willie Henderson from Glasgow Rangers and David Sellers from Manchester United. So plus the other team was against Miami. They had a pretty good team. Randy and I that same year represented the NASL in an all-star game against a Russian team. So those are my things. And I have to say, this thing, we either toured Haiti in 1971, I think. And I went back with the Cosmos for a mini tournament, preseason mini tournament. And we had, in fact, that's and so we had us, Miami, and the Haitian national team. And we had to do opening ceremonies and all this stuff and march around the field. So we were marching around the field, and the crowd was making all this noise and chirping. And my team, most of my guys were all full-time professionals. Had been, they were Santos of Brazil. They were from Uruguay. One of the guys played in the World Cup for Uruguay. And one messenger who had been the captain of Uruguay turns around and said to me, "Hey Sam, said, look, all that noise is not for us, it's for you," because everybody here remember how I played back in 1970, 71 with us. So that's probably one of my best memories of things. So that's the only time I've ever had a standing ovation in my life.
Oh wow!
So that's very important to me.
Good stuff. Yeah. All right, we're going to take our final commercial break. We'll be right back.
John Barrett & Son, Bermuda's favorite distributor of fine beverages, has brought us a new and refreshing thirst quencher just in time for the approaching warm weather. Hint Water in 7 luscious flavors. Hint Water is slaking the thirst of active people who need pure hydration, low on the glycemic index, and want the kind of taste experience that keeps them coming back to try the next flavor. For those who've been giving water a miss, Hint may win you over. Hint Water. No sugar, no additives, all flavor. Lynn knows. Why go anyplace else?
Dennis?
Yes. So to Sam, so once you finished playing in America, you came back to Bermuda, and I believe you are one of 2 goalkeepers in the history of Bermuda to ever win the MVP. I think it's you and Lou Simmons, Dr. Lou Simmons.
I won it twice.
Oh, you won it twice?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just in case Lou is listening, so.
It's probably listed. So yeah, you two.
We also goalkeepers have always been good friends.
So my question is, because we had 2 hotels guys on last week, Ricky Hill and Derek Scott. So why hotels and not go back to Village or anywhere else? Why hotels?
Well, the things where I started, and I think, I was like 29, 30 then, and most of the clubs, all the players were young, and I think, they had their own life off the field and stuff. So, but first of all, I first came back. I actually worked where you worked.
Yes.
I worked up in the prison. I wasn't going to play. I said I was going to stop playing. So I played commercial league for the prison service for a year or 2. And then Bruno Fioca came up to me one day and said, Sam, when you want to come out and play again, we need a goalkeeper, sir. Anyway, so being it was hotels, and they made sure I had good meals and.
Same thing Derek and Ricky talked about last week.
Yeah. Incentives.
Yeah. So I decided so I thought I'd try it. And the key things that we're all around 30 years old. So socially it worked. That I could go and play, and all the young guys go one way and we go the other way. Our young guys were a guy named Ricky Hill and Derek Scott. And, we had Coors Bell for a year or two, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was the age difference was probably the real pull, that all the guys from my age and they were all committed. We played a good level of football, and I ended up I coached them for a couple of years, but that was the main reason.
Okay. So even to that question, right? Because you guys had some good. I mean, you had guys like Stan Young.
Oh yeah.
I remember Mustafa Abedi and
That's right.
David Neisler and Frankie Brewster and
Billy Eberly.
Billy. Yeah. Good. Goes on and on.
Yeah, we had a lot of the English players.
Quality.
A lot of the English players had played at a decent level in England before they got here. So that helped. So we made life easy for each other.
Yep.
And I think we hammered Somerset a few times.
Like I remember one.
It's amazing.
I remember one hammering. I remember one. We had our wars.
You don't remember the other ones because you knocked them out.
We had our wars. Definitely. Yeah. Hotels were quality, man. So JB, and this is a question and also something from me, because in a selfish way, I wanted you to be here because I think you only played with us for a couple of seasons. You came back now and then. Were you in that team when we won the Dudley Eve over the Christmas holiday?
Yeah.
We hammered PHC
man,
like 7-1.
A lot of nonsense happening that year.
Over the two, yeah. You know what I mean? So, in a selfish way, we wanted you here, but we knew, and Vince and myself and Dasher, we used to talk all the time to say that, JB is not going to play in Bermuda that much. So, you might as well enjoy him when he comes back to school. So, what was it like to win, like, with guys you grew up with and in your neighborhood? Because I could tell you from a Somerset perspective, but what was it like? Because at that time, Wolves hadn't won in the Premier Division before. We won the Mortimer a couple of years before that, but we won the Dudley E. And what was it like to win with those guys?
It meant a lot, man. Because like you said, those are the guys that we grew up with. And so myself, Vincent Marners, Mikey Deal, we guys came up from Cosmere days, from the base.
Right.
Corey Davis. And so all of you guys actually grew up together from when I was 5 years old. I was always the baby amongst everybody else. They were 2-3 years older than me. But it meant a lot because I was able to come back for that Christmas break when we played against PAC in the Dudley Eve. And I just remember the energy around Wolves at the time. And Wolves fans always come out the woodwork, man. We started getting loud. But I didn't even realize there's that many people in Devonshire,
Unbelievable.
But for us, though, as young players, that's always what we wanted to do. That's why we stayed with Wolves, because Wolves was a second division club at the time.
Right.
So it wasn't like, your North Villages or PAC is where once you got 16, you was walking into a first division group. So we kind of, I think most of our Wolves guys have always been loyal people. Like even to this day, like once I stopped playing, I really didn't want to play for anybody else. So that's why I went into coaching. And started that transition. So, the guys that I grew up with were all loyal. You still got guys that are still part of the program today at Wolves. And so it was a lot of fun. Mind you, what was it, like 18 at that point? So
right.
Christmas holiday, everybody's back from college. We had a little bit of a party and we was winning as well. So, that was a lot of fun for us at that age as well.
Mm-hmm. You got one for
Yes.
Johnny?
Yes, Johnny. So when you finished pro, then you came back to Bermuda. So I remember playing against you a few times, and one of your main attributes, man, and you and JB were basically on the same line. Like both of you were exceptional in the air, man. Like couldn't turn your back on you. Where did that leaping ability? Because both of you had some tremendous leaping ability and good in the air. You don't see guys today heading like, how you go. I think Juwan was probably the last of the breed who are good in the air and and in the opposing team's box. So where did that come from, man? Because you had a good left foot, like you say, a free kicks and stuff like that. Where did that leaping ability and shooting ability come from?
Well, as far as the leaping ability, like I said before, I used to read a lot of books, and one of the books I read was from a guy named Ron Davis. It's a Welsh guy, and he used to be very good in the air. And what he used to say was that it's not that he jumps higher than everybody else, it's just that his timing is better than everybody else. So when everyone else is going up and coming back down, his just still there, is at his peak. And I had people like Barbara Daniels, and every time I see him, Barbara, I tell him, I said, listen, like some of my approach to the ball for heading, I've taken it from you because I remember watching you, and I must have been about 10, 11, 12 when I used to go town with my cousins, the Hart family, and but I used to watch Barbara how you approach the ball, and you go for runs and you check back, and then when the ball is being delivered, he's going forward and putting a lot of power behind his headers. So I had some role models, and also, like I said, I read a lot of books on that. And as far as the shooting is concerned, it just took a lot of practice. It just didn't happen overnight. So to the point that I felt very comfortable, and I felt that I should have scored every free kick, but that just never happens.
You didn't have your brother to shoot against every week, so the determination level went down.
Oh, we did that on the field. Yeah. But one more thing, Sam won the MVP twice. I won it once.
Okay.
And John Barris won the Male Athlete of the Year. So we've got a couple of trophies in our cabinet. I just thought I'd throw that in. Yeah.
But it's funny that you say my daddy and I's we play alike. And I don't know if he remembers, one of the first things he actually taught me as far as football was the man or the ball. So it's two things, but only one could go past.
That's
so
it.
If the man goes past, you gotta have the ball with you.
That's it.
But if that ball goes past you, he's got to go.
You better believe it.
But you learned that by playing yard ball, because that's where you basically got that. Listen, in the yard, ain't no referee, so it's a man on the ball.
Yeah, for real.
And nobody's turning around to say, referee, I got fouled. No, you get up and you run back. That's it.
No. But actually, so talking about the trajectory, so one of my old college teammates actually brought this up a few months ago when I was talking to him. And so my father and I are the only, I think it's probably one or two other people of a father-son that's gotten the All-American award in college 3 times in a row, first team All-American. And so he is going through a whole bunch of history stuff, bringing up those footers and stuff like that. But he said that's one of the things that, I guess what a trivia question was what he was saying, as far as being one of the only father-son duos to actually do that. And being in my space now, being able to look back, a lot of our careers were very, very similar, which maybe gave me some foresight into things as well. And so like how he talks about the jumping ability, for me, I always was very methodical in getting the edge. And so my dad will probably tell you, I used to have a basketball hoop in my yard, but once I grew, I put the hoop high enough so I could dunk. But everybody else I played against weren't getting no dunks on me. just getting a slight advantage. They call it cheating is what they call it these days. Right. But I call it advantage.
Those guys finish last, mate.
Exactly. But it's always about getting that little bit of action. Yeah.
That's it. Get the edge. That's it.
You got another question, Dennis?
Yes. So all of you, and it's ironic that all of you did some coaching. Why? Um, why would you guys want to become a coach? Because it's very stressful at times. I mean, about today is stressful, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
So why did each of you want to become a coach?
I'm going to start with Sam, but I know what his answer is. He already said he had a bunch of mature players.
Yeah.
So
That's it.
there were no
Yeah.
headaches. They like to play. They like to do things
Whoa.
together. They like to. So did I answer for you, Sam?
That's part, but I've got a better one that I hadn't used before. I think so I feel it's important anyway. When I played for North Village, I think the first year I came back, we had, because our coach had been, I guess for all of us, was our PE teacher from high school, and then he had to drop out at the beginning of the season. So at 25 I had to become the coach. So it actually was not just me. I had Joe Trott was my assistant and spokesman, because if you know me and you know Joe, one of us talks a lot, and the other one doesn't, especially those days, didn't talk at all. So Joe handled all the public stuff, and we had Harold Dillon did the juniors, and Michael Glassford became the BFA rep. So so that was that. So my first bit about coaching, I was forced into. So I think I did that for about 3 years. And the hotels one, it was probably easier when I was younger, because a bunch of your guys are all opinionated. So you think they all know it all when they're 16. But when you got all over 30, they definitely think they know it all. So,
Yeah.
but it was both times were good times.
Johnny?
Yeah. Yes. Dennis, you probably remember when I was coaching Hamilton Parish down there.
Yes.
And, when I got into the job, in fact, I took a coaching course just before I started putting on my resume as far as trying to be a coach of a team. So Hamilton Parish, they took me seriously, and I was able to coach them. And we had about 3 or 4 successful seasons. The first season, when I came down there, they were second from the bottom of the second division. And then we came third that season, and I had players that they were rather pay to watch Dennis Brown than to actually play against him. They were very excited about just looking at this player and looking at that player, and so, but they end up developing a bit. The following season we got promoted. And then the next season after that, we were at Christmas time, second on goal difference, and we got into the Martin Muir Cup. So there were some developments, and I felt that I had something to offer. I had some. I did go to England with a coaching course with Jack Castle, so I did have some coaching in terms of techniques of coaching. But what we did not have in Bermuda was the movable goals. At least they didn't have the Hamilton Parish. Movable goals that players were going to be 100% focused, that they would feel bad about you yelling at them and all those type of things, like English coaches and all that. But they did listen. And they paid attention to my instructions, and my instructions had to be very simple, not complicated. I realized that we were not Brazil. We were Hamilton Parish, so we had to just keep things simple. And things worked out well for us. And in the end, I had to leave coaching because I felt that I had something to offer, not only to Hamilton Parish, but to the country. And that's why I went and joined the BFA. I spoke to my cousin Gebby Hart, who passed away recently, and he says it'd be a good experience. Go ahead and do it. And so I had 2 terms with the FA, and I hope that I actually, the FA actually and Bermuda as a whole benefited from some of the decisions I made.
Okay. John?
JB?
Yeah. For me, it was when I came back home, just going back home to Wolves. And I actually coached the first year that I was there. But I never really enjoyed that phase of it. I don't think you can get the same experience being on the pitch and then trying to tell everybody what to do as I pass the ball out of bounds. So, you know, I started with Wolves, and I think I've always been a coach in some way, like me and methodical about it. I try to analyze everybody's position. Like I said earlier, I've always been one on how can I get an advantage. So from playing down the back as a kid to then playing up as striker later on, my thought process was always, how do I get the upper hand on the striker? What is he thinking? And how do I counteract it? And so it was almost like a game for me in my head when I first started coaching. And then obviously I started to take the coaching courses with Drew and Carl Roberts over to France to do a little assessment at Fontaine and all of that, and then just started really getting into it. So obviously I'm the only one that's still in coaching at the moment. And I'm enjoying it on the good days, and I guess I'm enjoying it on the bad days too. And so, Dennis Bond and I talk a lot about it as well, because when you see it in space. But,
you know, I'm a technical director now, man. I'm not no coach, though.
Yeah, that's true. But right now,
he made it till he cut all his hair off to become a technical director.
See this, right?
John cut his off.
I do it early. I let him know early.
It's not getting great.
I enjoy coaching. Yeah. But I enjoy coaching. If I'm being honest, it's the journey for me. It's always been about the journey. So I enjoy it. I have fun with it. Even when guys get me vexed, I'm an EQ type of person anyway, so I'm able to get over things very quickly. You're not gonna, embarrass me or put me down. So, if you want to be part of it, cool, let's do this. If you don't, that's cool too. Go your own way. So I think my mentality is kind of suited for it as well. And then, with Robin Hood right now, I've got a lot of good players that actually want to learn and want to play, which makes it easy to coach. If you got that side of it already put down, now you just gotta go to the other side of it. But my daddy will tell you, we had conversations about it at different times and different spaces on what I'm actually doing and why I'm doing it. Should I get into the administration side of it? I've never been very good in administration because I a little bit. So, I'm hesitant on that side of it, but I know I have something to give to it.
Yeah, you'll learn.
It has conversations about it. Yeah. I'm still young.
And JB, again, I was sad to see you leave the National Academy because I think you had like under 15 group or something, and I saw you as a future national team coach. Do you still have those aspirations, or you're just concentrating at the club?
Yeah, I know. So I talk to Maurice regularly. The actual reason I left was my mother actually passed away in that space.
Right. Okay.
And so kind of just pulled back a little bit, focused on the family a little bit, and then my grandmother went through her bout, and so I was trying to get back in. It just it just didn't fit the moment.
Right.
And then I was missing a lot of time with my own family, and so I kind of stepped back a little bit, I pulled away from it. I actually stopped coaching, altogether at that point, and then I went back to Robin Hood afterwards. But I talked to Maurice all the time. We had conversations about me possibly getting back in with the group, and just what's the group doing. I'm always talking to the players, so I see them more. Dante and all those guys, I see them a lot anyway. Right. So I'm always kind of having those conversations. I'm always in and around the situation, just seeing it from afar, I guess, at the moment. But I've got no problem with being back involved. I actually at under 15 team, I really enjoyed it, and now you're seeing a lot of them. Jai Pitt going to Duke right now. Najee Ashwood going off to university. So you're seeing a lot of those guys that now making those steps and that progress, which is good for me as a coach to see that, the benefits of it. And I still keep in contact with those guys, and they got a good space for me.
Yeah, it's good.
Final question, Dennis?
Yeah, and I ask this to all the guests that come on each week. What advice would you give to aspiring the current football player today who wants to go possibly to college or to the pro level? What advice would you give these guys or girls to get to the next level?
We'll start with you, Johnny.
It always takes a bit of work. Because nothing happens by accident, and you have to be serious about it, dedicated to it, and you have to have a focus on what you want to achieve. And I mean, myself, it was all about football, and football has been good to me. And everything I have today is because of football. Because I got a scholarship through Gordon Chumney for football. Some jobs I got was because of I was a known quantity. But you know, it's you know, a lot of work has to be put in, and you just have to be serious, you know, and focused. Things don't happen by accident. It takes time.
Mm-hmm. John Barry?
Yeah, no, I would echo that as well. It's hard work, but I think it's a little bit more difficult. When I think about myself growing up and the kids now, there's so many other distractions that, you know, can easily shift the thought process. And so I think I'm realizing that as a PE teacher and as a coach, on how can you navigate all the extracurricular stuff to get you focused on the actual game. So for me, when I was growing up, all we did was go outside and play football. It wasn't, you know, a lot of other things to kind of divert us from it. But just kind of getting that focus. I think, you know, I preach a lot about focus on what you're doing, and when you're doing it, just do it as good as you can do it. But that's kind of, you know, it's always hard work. It's always about being focused on the task at the end, and then where do you actually want to go? If you want to do it, then go do it. If you don't, like I said before, then, you know, do something else.
Okay. Sam?
Okay, my phone might trip out, so if I go silent, what's happening? I think I sort of agree with both with Johnny and John Barry, and I only back that up by saying that, you know, stay humble. That's important, and you know, just keep your feet on the ground, and remember that if you're going to compete for something, it's the person who wants it the most that's going to get it. So just realize that you can't, you know, because you're a big fish here, you're a small fish somewhere else, and the competition once you leave the island is so much greater. So you have to go down there and really, you know, bust your butt to get it. You have to really want it. You can't. It's not going to be given to you. So you have to work for it.
Okay. Well, I want to personally thank the three of you for coming on and sharing, taking us on a Newsome walk down memory lane. It's been a lot of fun. I know, Dennis, you would never forget the day that you were introduced to Sam Newsome.
Nope.
And I'm pretty sure Sam won't forget the day he was introduced to Dennis Brown.
Beautiful, beautiful memories.
Good people. You had good memories and good people.
You did knock it all out.
Despite that, you know, the football community has always been a good community. We've all stayed in touch with each other over the years. So yeah. So when I see Dennis, I won't remind him about that, but I'll just
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much again, Dennis.
Yes.
See you next week for another edition of the Walk Down Memory Lane.
All right,
gentlemen,
again,
thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Good night. Bye.
Bye-bye.